Okay, Dreamer, please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we'll be looking at all the odd numbered floors for Tower of Trials. In these odd numbered floors, you will be facing regular mobs, and these has so far not changed throughout the various seasons of Tower of Trials. So hopefully this video will encourage more people to do Tower of Trials because it may not be that difficult, especially with Carl out now. So without further ado, we'll be checking out the team we'll be using for the first floor, and all the way this will actually be the same team that we will use for all the odd numbered floors. Take note that for this season, Petrify will be the debuff applied on your team. So to overcome this, you will need to use Daisy. Daisy is preferable because she has better stats compared to Black Rose. The team we'll be using is this. Teo will be on the crit set for this particular run, Kagura on the block set for more tankiness because she can be quite fragile, Daisy on the crit set, Biscuit is on the block set, and Carl is on the crit set. I believe even a T2 Carl can also be able to handle this particular flaws, so don't worry too much about it. The skill queue when you enter the battle is pretty much the same, just fire off Carl's skills to land as much damage as possible. If you want, you can also start off with Teo's top skill because some of the enemies can have certain immunity buffs that are turn based and you want to get rid of these first. Sometimes some heroes also have applied buffs, you can also get rid of them with Daisy's top skill. Alternatively, if you want, you can also try to petrify them, but I believe these enemies do have some form of effect resistance, so the petrification may be a little tricky. Basically, throughout the runs, there's really not much of a strategy per se. It's really just about using whatever skills, whatever damaging skills that you have to nuke the enemy as much as you can, and also relying on Kyle's splash damage via his attacks to do more damage consistently. So easy clear for floor 1. Moving on, we're going to floor 3. So in this particular floor, you'll be meeting Yuxun and Vanessa, both of whom have damage immunity. Dylan's does have damage nullification, and Ballista does have camouflage. So technically, effectively, the only unit you will be able to really hit through at the beginning will be Nia. So that is why I opt to use Teo's bottom skill to pierce through. You can even use Teo's top skill to reduce the turn base buffs on the enemies. Unfortunately, I got paralyzed really badly, but thankfully, because most of the team is paralyzed, Carl's basic attack managed to go through first. And even though Biscuit and Daisy died here, at the very least, you know, Kagura is able to revive and your Teo is able to revive as well. So if anything, you still have skills that can be used in the later phase of the battle. Next, we'll be going to floor 5. So here I'm starting off with Teo's top skill to reduce any form of buff on the enemies. As you can see, Yuxun actually still has one more turn of damage immunity. And this particular Jave seems to counter every hit I dealt. So just take note of that. You may encounter some difficulty if Jave continuously attacks. Unfortunately, because we are going for the medal clear and not just a simple clear, so there will be certain times when your entire team could be, inflicted with status effects because of all the mobs like Eileen, Yushin, and maybe even Chris applying death on you and you dying to death. These are all RNG factors because they may or may not be able to land the effects on you. So if you do fail, you can only just restart with the same amount of medals, because this is the only team that can get you the amount of medals necessary. If you were to swap in another unit, maybe an immunity unit, then you probably have to get rid of Biscuit or Lina, okay, depending on who you would like to use. Then you may have lesser sustain, and overall your damage output, or rather your survivability, will be at stake, and that could also cause you a fail in the run. You definitely can't get rid of Daisy due to the season's buff, or rather debuff, and Kagura, Teo, and Kyle makes up for a very strong trio. You definitely also cannot remove any of them because Kyle relies on having 3 attack units to be able to get his damage nullification as well. But as you can see here, Kyle is very strong and definitely a unit you will not regret pulling for. Over here, I just like to showcase a little bit on setting presets. So as you know, all the teams we'll be using for the odd flaws are the same team. As you can see here, many people are just using this team. So you can actually save this team as a preset so that whenever you are doing the odd number flaws, you can just toggle back to this particular team easily without much issue. Set your skill queue. Usually I will just go for top skill for Teo, okay, and then also both of Kyle's, and then eventually I'll use both of Kyle's skills to attack the mobs. Of course, as you progress through the top floors, you may encounter some issues in terms of skill queues, so you have to adjust accordingly. Sometimes opening with Teo's skill may not be the best, so it really depends on what we face later on. Again, here we have Yushin, and we also have Vanessa. They tend to use similar heroes to annoy you. And also, as you gradually go up the floors, the mobs on these odd number floors tend to get tankier as well. So you may realize that your damage output is not the same as earlier on. So it's very unfortunate. I wanted to use the buff removal to remove the immortalities on the enemies, but yeah, Yushin just kills my Daisy, so these things can happen. So it really depends. You may even want to save Kyle's own buff removal skill and use Teo's skills instead to get rid of the enemies. Moving on to floor 11, using the same team of course. So in this floor we also have Alina. So one possible strategy you can use is to use a hard hitting skill to cut the enemy's HP down by a good amount. Okay, I think Teo actually did it. My point is to really bait Lina's heal, and then after you can actually use a buff removal skill either from Daisy's top skill or Kyle's top skill to remove the continuous healing so as to make your life a lot easier. Because I realized that every time the heroes heal, the enemies heal, sometimes you are so close to killing them, but they just keep healing and there's just no end to it. Good thing is that Kagura actually cleanses when she procs Indomitable, so that's actually like a cheat code in order to get Carl to move again. So yeah, even though most of the team is dead, but as long as Carl is alive, I think you will have no issues clearing it. So for floor 13, same team. This is where things start to get a little tricky, because personally for me, when I tried this floor, I had to restart a couple of times because now we have the 7 Knights of O. It's not so easy, so I also removed the blessing because I realized the blessing is actually getting in my way, in terms of damage output. I am not able to do as much damage and kill them, even though I get their HP really close to almost dying. So here, as I mentioned, I did use Carl's bottom skill first to actually bait out the Lina's heal, and then I removed the continuous healing buff with Carl's top skill. Here you can also try to petrify them. I got really lucky here, to be honest, and I think I have to attribute the success to the petrification. So for your runs, if you feel that your petrification success rate wasn't that great and that caused your failure, hopefully you have the motivation to rerun this with better petrification landing rate. As you can see here, Juri did proc her immortality. What I should have done is probably to use Daisy's skill first, but unfortunately she killed Daisy here, so I didn't have my buff removal left. But nonetheless, I did kill the entire enemy team, so not to worry. For floor 15, again, this is where things start to get a little tricky, so I'm not using the blessing buff. In terms of skill queue, I'm gonna go with what I mentioned before. I'm actually gonna go with Carl's bottom skill, and then Carl's top skill, and then followed by Kagura's petrification. So in this run, you actually have Rudy here. Rudy actually can cast a link and can cleanse debuffs. So in fact, you also want to try to bait out that link. In order to do that, you can use Kagura's petrification first. Hopefully you petrify even just one enemy, and then Rudy will actually go proceed to cleanse and get rid of the debuff. So once he does that, you can actually then use Daisy's buff removal skill to remove the buffs applied by Alice's heal, which is a defense increase, and then you can also remove the link. In this case, Alice then used her continuous healing buff. I have to use Teo's buff duration reduction skill to remove it. And then of course I was pretty lucky with the petrification. The best case for petrification, I guess, would be to land it on Rudy as well as Rosie, because Rosie will continuously revive if possible. So if you actually petrify her at the right moment and then you kill most of her allies, she wouldn't be able to revive most of them by the time she gets out of the petrification. This part is problematic because Rosie actually has a skill damage immunity. So you have to use, piercing skills, or you have to use buff duration reduction skills to remove that turn count. Next up for floor 17, same thing here. The later flaws all employ the same strategy, but of course things get a little tough. You may need to increase your team's damage output if you really want to clear them. So damage output wise, because I picked the attack increase buff for me, the damage output is significantly better because I tried this without the attack buff and it was not that great at all. My units were dying very quickly thanks to the CC from Dylan's and Eileen. It just completely shuts down your team before you can even do anything. And again, we have Rosie left, but thankfully, her damage immunity turn count was low, so Kyle could finish it very easily. And finally, we are at flaw 19. This is the medals I have achieved so far. Flaw 19, I decided to go for the very safe route. I'm going to activate all the positive buffs for myself, and I'm going to adjust the skill queue again to try to bait out, because I know that there's a Rudy, and hopefully I can bait out the Link and also the Alice buffs. Then I can remove them all together with Kyle's buff removal. I'm pretty lucky here because I managed to petrify the Rudy, which I think that is good enough. Okay, rather than trying to bait out the Link, that's actually good enough. So I'll proceed to remove Alice's defense increase buff. And just in case Alice, in this case Alice does cast continuous healing, I can actually use Daisy's top skill to try to remove the buff, and also at the same time get rid of Jewelry. For some reason, it didn't remove the buff, the continuous healing buff on Alice, so I don't know what's up with that. And of course, thanks to the medal buffs we gave ourselves, you can see that you actually can nuke this team pretty easily and still earn a decent amount of medals. I think it's about 3 or 4 medals. So I hope this video helped, and hopefully you'll find an easier time to do Tower of Trials. And if this video did help, do give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much and see you!